Finding a coronavirus vaccine is seen as a key way to defeat the virus and help get our lives back to normal.
Until we find a vaccine or effective treatment, coronavirus will be with us for a long time to come.
Vaccines work. People who are vaccinated protect themselves and the rest of the population by lowering the spread and risk of infection.
The hope is, if one could make us immune to COVID-19, it could stop people getting sick and allow measures like social distancing to be relaxed. But politicians worry that even if a vaccine is successfully developed, the next big challenge will be making sure enough people get it.
Because there's all these anti-vaxxers now, isn't there?
Well, Marina can tell you a little bit about how we've achieved that.
Marina, what do you think of anti-vaxxers?
A survey by Public Health Wales suggested 1 in 10 Welsh adults would not want to have a vaccine if it became available, and 7% said they were unsure. And there are loads of misleading claims about a potential vaccine going around on social media. Some anti-vaccine posts or comments have been shared by high-profile celebrities like Madonna and Lewis Hamilton. Madonna later took down an anti-vaccine post she'd shared on Instagram. Lewis Hamilton also deleted his and clarified he was not against a vaccine. But a lot of misleading claims just get shared by ordinary people in social media groups. People we might know and trust, like friends, family members and neighbours. False claims and conspiracy theories that we've seen spread in social media groups in Wales include claims the vaccine is an attempt to microchip us, that it'll change our DNA, and even that the whole coronavirus is a hoax. I asked Dr. Richard Stanton from Cardiff University to explain where these claims come from and why there's no evidence behind them.
Okay, so the flu vaccine is one of two things. It's either a weakened flu virus or a dead flu virus. That virus cannot cause disease, and so it's not possible for those vaccines to cause the COVID-19 pandemic. And even if those vaccines were in some way able to cause the disease, they will cause flu and not COVID-19. So this seems to have come out of an interview that Bill Gates did where he talked about digital immunity passports. So here we're talking about if you have a vaccine and you have that vaccine, you are now hopefully protected from the disease. You could then carry on your phone a record of the fact that you've been vaccinated, and therefore you're unlikely to catch it again. That was sort of put together with another project that the Bill Gates Foundation did, looking at using invisible tattoo ink to record people's vaccination history on their arms, largely for use in developing countries where vaccination records are not well kept. These kind of two things are put together along with this idea of microchipping to lead to this idea that potentially you can microchip people via a vaccine. There's no evidence whatsoever that that is happening, and although there has been some discussion about vaccination passports, they certainly aren't happening at the moment, and those records, certainly in the UK at least, will be held by your GP rather than by your phone. So we are rushing these vaccines, but we are not skimping on the safety testing. All vaccines go through 3 phases of testing, phase 1, phase 2 and phase 3, and these vaccines are going through the exact same 3 phases that all vaccines go through. The way we're speeding these up is that normally we would spend a lot of time in the lab and in the phase 1 studies with a large panel of vaccines, testing them all and working out which one was the best, the most effective, before taking it through to the large phase 3 trials. Those phase 3 trials are really expensive. Instead, what we're doing here, we're starting with a large panel of vaccines and we're taking them all the way through to phase 3.
The worry is these misleading claims and extreme conspiracies could be seen by people who are just nervous or curious about a potential vaccine, like Laura. She told me she didn't want to have a vaccine because of claims she'd seen about it.
This whole thing about the vaccine and injection and stuff, I'm curious. I'm hearing there's going to be a chip in there, there's going to be the actual virus pumped into us. It's quite alarming what I'm hearing, but I know that's just word of mouth.
I wanted to bring Laura and Richard together to see if Richard could help reassure her about some of her concerns.
Has it got a chip in it?
So no one is allowed to implant any chip into anyone, certainly in this country, and I imagine in most countries. without your explicit consent. And no one has ever attempted to put a chip into a vaccine that they would then give to the general population. It would be completely illegal to do that without your consent.
Can you explain to me in simple terms?
Yeah.
What is in the injection?
The way we make vaccines are we throw away the virus genome. We get rid of it. It's not there. And we just deal with those bits of protein that sit around the genome and protect it. And what that means is because the vaccine doesn't have the virus genome there, it can't grow, it can't divide, it can't make more copies of itself. And so what we're doing is we're giving your body those bits of protein that sit around the genome. That's enough to train your immune system, but there's no virus genome there, and that means that the virus cannot replicate, it can't produce more viruses, and therefore it can't cause any disease.
Given what we've just been talking about as well, would you feel more inclined to want to have one?
I would think about it. I'm not saying I would do it. I'd think about it.
Chris Elmore is the MP for Ogmore in South Wales, and he's also chair of Parliament's all-party group on social media. He wants new plan laws to tackle online disinformation to go further by giving regulators more power to fine social media companies if they don't take down harmful misinformation.
It's an absolute ticking time bomb. There can be no doubt about that at all. All the evidence shows that people are getting more fearful because of the information that they're receiving on social media and from non-trusted news sources that they deem the news source to be trustworthy. Therefore, they're saying this must be true, this must be correct because it isn't the BBC or other broadcasters. You know, we're getting it from someone writing something on a post and it being shared tens of thousands of times on Facebook or Instagram. The government aren't going far enough. They have an online harms paper that they say is coming in the autumn. That needs to tighten up the issues around anti-vax campaigning. They need more investment in the information that's sharing that shows that vaccines are tested, trialled and are safe, and that the population should be trusting of scientists that are developing and working on vaccine development, and that when a vaccine is available, it will be to the highest of standards and will be safe.
The UK government said since the start of the pandemic, they've been working rapidly to identify and rebut false information about coronavirus, including working closely with social media companies. They also said they're developing plans to protect people online and will introduce legislation as soon as possible. But as we know, these misleading claims are still really rife on social media. Richard's got some top tips for how we can all separate vaccine fact from fiction when we see a claim posted online.
You can look at the tone that the message uses. Fake news tends to try and evoke a very emotional response in you to get you to spread that message to make you angry or something like that. And then it's very useful if you see a claim to Google that claim with the word hoax after it, see if there's information out there stating that is a hoax and why it's a hoax. There's some really good fact-checking websites. Full Fact is a really good UK-based website, and there's also Snopes is an international website. Many of these websites list claims, and they very carefully go through the evidence for those claims and explain to you if a claim is false, why it's false.
Remember, if in doubt, don't share a claim that you're not sure about, even if your friends and family are. Instead, remember Richard's top tips and always check claims are coming from a reliable source.